financial crisis, money started flowing a couple of years after that. And so, I was still working and I started buying in Jersey City. Jersey City around no 2014, 2013 or so was, not the same prices you see right now. And this just goes to the power of like real estate for you. Like everybody talks about appreciation is not something that you should look for. It should be something that's like a byproduct of the cash flow you're going to get. I was buying there because I was getting a really high return, and the potential for appreciation is always there, but appreciation is just a number in a point in time. It's really not the end goal because you can't control that end goal. The end goal is what this moment in time, how much is the rent, but I digress. So I started buying up in Jersey City, and at the same time, I only bought like one or two condos. They were really cheap. They were like 70, 80, $90,000 back in the day. And I had my co-op here in Brooklyn that I purchased when I was 25, and I sold it 4 years later for triple. It was worth triple. I was like, what? I was like, this is what I want to do. It was just it really kind of opened my eyes. So after that, I kind of started doing a lot of homework. Like my superpower is homework. I think I told Naeem this like a long time ago. So my superpower is homework. You know what I mean? Like I don't dive kind of head first into anything, like head on into anything unless I know everything about it. So I looked up different markets, and it just kind of like went from there. But I would say the real power is people. The real power is understanding a market and kind of being realistic with numbers. I think that the biggest problems investors make, and this is where they get into trouble, is they try to force the numbers to work for them. It's like a deal doesn't look good, but they're like, okay, what if I take away this? What if I take away that? Okay, but if you take away this and take away that, is it a good deal? Is it better to have just walked away versus gone and gotten into something that like you shouldn't have, but your gut was telling you shouldn't have, but you're like, I still want to make it work. And with a lot of like investor friends of mine, that's just kind of been it as well. So started buying in Jersey City. I started buying up in a lot of secondary markets that had really high cash flow, like Scranton, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. In Scranton, you could have bought, 6, 7 years ago, a six family for 100 grand.
Sheesh.
20, yeah, 20% cap rate. That's just what it was. So like I started looking at those markets like that. I wasn't interested in like the big flashy. I was just interested in steady cash flow. You know what I mean? I don't need a class A apartment building that's gonna make you no money. Because in reality, maybe that class A apartment building goes up in value, maybe it doesn't. But in the end, the cash flow is king. Everybody says like cash is king, and it applies to real estate kind of more than anything else. So I started buying first using I was leveraging just purchases, 20% down, getting a really nice return. And then once I established a relationship with a couple of construction crews in the area, and these are various areas that I invested in, then I started doing, larger projects in burrs. So, I'm able to buy a 10-unit building once you know your numbers are right, right? You can't force them to work. But once you know your numbers are right, I was able to buy the building, cash out refi fully. You have a free building and you cash flowing 2,000 a month on one.
So Max, I don't want that to go over a couple of people's head. I'm sure a couple of these guys are familiar with the term burr. A few of you guys, are some of you guys not aware of what that is, the burr strategy?
I've heard
I'm
it,
not
but I
sure.
don't remember what it is.
Max, can you kind of like
Yeah, absolutely.
on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Burr is there's a lot of books and there's a lot of shit written about this, and everybody tries to overcomplicate the process. I actually stumbled onto the process myself, didn't realize there was a term for it, and then got a bigger pockets and saw that there's a word for it. You know what I mean?
Bigger
So Burr
pockets.
stands for, yeah, exactly. That's I did a lot of homework on that back in the day. So Burr is buy, repair, rent, refinance, repeat. So your goal at the end of the Burr is to have a free building, a free property. So that's the worst case scenario. Is it should be free. You should not have any money in it, otherwise it wasn't a Burr. So what does that mean is your purchase plus your acquisition cost plus closing. Never forget the closing fees because those are murder. Transfer taxes really kill you. Purchase costs, not the cost of the property purchase. All purchase costs, including closing fees, including all renovation costs, you should not be higher than 75% of the actual property value after it's done. So for example, if I buy it, so let's say you know for a fact what you're buying is worth $100 and your purchase price is $50 and your closing fees are another $5, your total construction cost cannot include $20. You have to be all in, maximum 75%. The reason I say that is one, let's say it doesn't appraise right, and then you're all in at 80% of it, right? You still have that cushion. Let's say you weren't, let's say the appraiser, we know how appraisers are. They don't always hit values, it is what it is. You don't want to be at the whim of the appraiser, you don't want to be at the whim of kind of someone else make a financial decision for you. So you have to have that pocket. So after you purchase the property and you renovate it, you rent it out, you refinance it, meaning you probably bought it with your own cash, or better yet, none of your own cash. I don't have any cash. I don't use my own cash. That's I'll get into that in a second. So when you're done with that, what you have is you have good debt because you have a fixed rate mortgage, which is great to hedge against inflation right now, and you have a free building because you were all in at 75% of the value price. When you refinance the building, when you take a mortgage out on it to get out of to get all your cash back out, you're getting 75% of the building value. So that's a free building. Your equity stays in the building, and if you did your numbers right, hopefully, you're cash flowing something per month. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be crazy money. With a multifamily, you're probably doing $300 a door. But a 3-family building, that's almost $1,000 a month for free. For free. Plus the tax benefits that come along with owning it, plus the depreciation, plus everything else. Plus, let's look at it this way. Let's say you refinance this building, you did the BRRRR on it 5 years ago, right? This building appreciated by 100 grand. That 100 grand is from quite literally thin air because you have no money in this building yourself. You pulled all your money out. At that point, you have 100 grand you're just sitting on that was made out of thin air, plus all the cash flow you took. You want that 100 grand yourself, sell the building. You want only some of that 100 grand, refinance the building again at its current value. And like this method is how vast majority of wealth is made in real estate. For most people, nobody has 20% to put down nonstop or 25% on every single property purchase. Eventually, you're going to be tapped out. The BRRRR method allows you to look at it from the other direction. You can scale up, assuming you know your numbers. You could also get hurt, but if your numbers are right and you're not chasing that appreciation, it's a great method in order to really kind of get into rentals and scale up. Now, when I said on the purchase price being $50 for this, now let's say you don't have $50. And generally speaking, I have, like at this moment, I have something like $3 million out right now on properties that I'm working on. So I'm not liquid at the moment, but none of that is relevant. The most important part of the BRRRR method is using other people's money in the beginning. So how it works is like this. There's something called a hard money lender. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but if you're not, I'll touch on it for a second. Hard money is short-term loan. That's usually about a percentage a month you're paying. So 12%, you borrow, let's say you borrow $100, you're paying $12 a month, $120 a month. The loan says you're paying 1% of the loan a month. But that loan is a short-term loan. So you purchase the property, short-term financing. This is how most of it is. This is how it's all done on a smaller or larger scale. Short-term financing, just to acquire the property. You work on the property and then you get out of this loan after 1 year, like I said, with the refinance method. So what you have is in the beginning, you borrow the value of this. You didn't put any of your own money in. If you find the right lender, which there's plenty out there right now, you can also borrow the rehab funds. So let's say you need to fix up the property, you don't have the money to fix it up, but your numbers were sound. You can go to someone, make a deal, give them a little piece, give them a little piece. But as long as in the end it works for you, people get too caught up in the fact that like, oh, I don't want to pay interest. Okay, you don't pay interest, you don't make a deal. Period. What's better, like a piece of something, or all of nothing? That's kind of the way I looked at it. Like people are too reluctant to be like, I don't want to pay interest rates. What do you mean you don't want to pay interest rates? You know how many deals you're gonna pass up on because you're unwilling to pay interest rates? It's just that's something like I don't understand. Even a couple of friends of mine, like they can afford, they can and they do afford to buy all cash, right? But instead of doing 5 deals a year, they'll do one. So on the one deal, let's say the one deal makes 100 grand. But if they paid out interest on the other 5, they can make 70. So what's better, 100 grand or 350? It's the only way to do it, in my opinion. This business is just too much about scale and about numbers, not to take advantage of leverage. Leverage is like number one important to it here. No matter what market you're in, it could be $100,000 condo, it could be a $10 million apartment building. You need to have leverage to make it work for you.
It's amazing, Max, because you're saying a lot of terms which we spoke of literally before you got on the call. As far as leveraging, looking to scale up, using other people's money, and literally with that, what you explained, you've literally just did that over and over and over and over again to build up your empire by just sticking and focusing on these basic concepts that you study and just implemented and executed.
Absolutely. It's just, I don't think this is a business that's like real estate of itself. I don't think it's a business that's for, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm definitely not always the smartest guy in the room. I'm not even the smartest guy in the room right now, and I'm here by myself. But I will say that, like, it's just all about homework and just kind of like understanding a system and sticking to it.
Love that. So the last 15 minutes, and I know, Max, we only have 30 minutes. And I mean,
Naeem, I always make time for you. You know this.
I know it's like not much we can cover, but I'm curious, does anyone have any specific questions for Max?
Is there a limit to how many times you can refinance a property?
Yes and no, right? So technically, in your own personal name, which you shouldn't be holding anything in anyway, you can only hold about 10 mortgages. However, you shouldn't be owning anything in your own personal name. Oh, did you mean refinance one property, or in general, how many loans do you have?
Like your investment part, I guess one property.
Okay, so one property, there is no limit, but it also doesn't make sense to refinance every year because you're paying closing costs, and the property may not have appreciated enough for it to make sense. And you have to understand, right now the interest rates are going up. So when you are talking about doing it, like when you're talking about, I want to do a BRRRR, interest rate right now is like 6.5%. So you're not going to refinance this again in a year or two unless you have such insane equity that it actually makes sense for you to do so. It's going to be unlikely. Interest rates they're going up. So can you refi literally nonstop? Yes. After you purchase the property, there's generally a 6-month seasoning period, which is the amount of time a bank wants to see you take ownership of the property and they're performing before you can actually refinance it. But beyond that, you can do whatever you want. Is it going to happen? No. Is it realistic? Probably not. That's why I gave the example of, like, you bought that place for $100, it's worth $200 now. In a couple of years, it may make sense. It's opportunity cost. You always have that equity. So, like, maybe it makes sense to take the higher interest payment, refinance it anyway. But it won't be, long story short, it won't be in a year. And it won't be in like 6 months. Because closing costs plus interest rate is really what's going to determine how often you're going to do it, whether you have equity or not.
Love that. Any other questions?
I do. How many times can you use your FHA?
Well, that's a better question for Naeem, I think, than me. I don't really.
So for the FHA, you can do it literally as many times as long as you don't have the FHA anymore. So like the first house that I bought it with an FHA and went up in value. I did a cash out refinance. The FHA was paid off and now converted to a conventional mortgage, which then freed up my FHA. And then I did another FHA the following year. And then the same thing happened. It went up in value. I refinanced it, paid off the FHA loan, and now I don't have FHA anymore. So, which I can then do FHA again. So that's kind of a way to finesse the system. But when you're doing that, they're owner occupant purchases, you know. So I would recommend starting with the 4 and then cash out refinance, then get a 3, then cash out refinance, then get a 2, then cash out refinance, and then so on and so on. But as long as you're paying off or getting the FHA out of your name and switched over to conventional, you can pretty much do it. As long as the bank, you know, can see and believe that it's an owner occupant purchase. Any other questions?
Yes. When you're looking to purchase an investment property, what's the minimum cash or like the minimum cash flow that you look at? So you said something earlier, like it's a free $1,000. So if a property will make you $1,000 after mortgage and expenses, is that a good deal for you? Is it 1,500? Is it 800? Is it just something that's positive?
Here's the thing. When you see everybody talking about this kind of stuff, there's a lot of different schools of thought. When you're looking at these large, I'm talking about, you know, proper 20, 30, 40, 50 unit buildings, those people look at for cash flow at about like $150 a door. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot because it's not. However, $150 a door usually takes into account everything: management, vacancy, all the capital expenditures you're going to need, any delinquencies in rent. The markets that I'm in personally, northeastern Pennsylvania, I have some property in Florida and Texas and all over. I like to look at $300 a door, personally. And I mean $300 a door, that's what you're getting. That doesn't mean $300 a door, but you have repairs every month for $100. I'm talking about like you have a pad set aside and you're looking at $300 a door. Now, I have some properties that make $700 a door. I have some that make less. It really varies. So it's hard to say, but like it's not like a rule of thumb thing. It's kind of like a case by case basis. And like if Naeem wants to give out my info anyway, I'd be happy to help anyone analyze the deal, you know, for something like that. But the answer is, I know this is not the answer you want to hear, but it depends, you know. But it can't like $150. You have to figure out this way: like you're taking a risk, right? And you're taking all the risk. Is it really worth it to be making like $100 a door, $150 a door? Not really. I think minimum target should be 300. If you have more, then more. But 300 can't be a single family. It has to be a multi-family.
Thank you.
Good question. Good question. Anyone else? Any questions at all?
Max, do you have, like, when you first got started, did you use any other resources besides biggerpockets.com?
Oh my God. I read Millionaire Real Estate Investor, I think like something like 10 years ago, the book. And the book is a load of shit. It literally just repeats itself nonstop. There's no like knowledge in it. I know, you know, I have a lot of friends of mine who started investing because of me, and like they say you learn by doing, and there's you know, no matter how much you read, there's always something that's gonna come up that you weren't prepared for. Like is Bigger Pockets mostly what I learned from? Yes. And a lot of it was trial by fire for me. I can't even tell you how many mistakes I made that like other people have avoided because they didn't have a max to call. You know, like I didn't have a max to call.
Do you
Like
have a mentor?
I do not. I kind of learned trial by fire. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and you know, like people that ask me for advice, I try to help them out so they avoid the same mistakes. But no matter what you try to avoid, there's really no other lesson. Just going right into it. There's a term I learned a couple of years ago called paralysis by analysis. You know, and it's like you want to get into it, but you just keep analyzing everything so much that you just kind of like, I can't, you know, and that's going to cause you to miss out on literally every opportunity that comes your way.
No doubt. I got a question. Can you describe I mean, can you summarize what your life is like now? How has your life changed since you climbed up, this investment ladder, with your family, because a lot of people sometimes probably can't even picture what that life even looks like. Like, what does that life look like? If you have to describe it.
Your own, do what you want on your own time.
Do what you want on your own time.
Yeah, that's basically.
So you don't take shit from
That's
anyone.
was that
You don't take shit from anyone.
my wife?
All right, well that counts. So yeah, I mean, does anyone have any other questions? What's next, Max? What's next for you?
What's next? What's next? I don't know. I'm getting a little. I'm also getting get into new things, kind of leverage the real estate money into like other ventures, do cool shit. That's kind of like what I want to do. Obviously, keep growing up, keep scaling up. 1,000 doors, maybe a year or two. But mostly just I like learning about new stuff, like getting into new stuff that I didn't know about before. I invested in a couple businesses, and see what happens with that. Never don't be stagnant.
So Max, if you were starting over completely with no money, like what do you think the first thing you would do? Like,
First thing you would do, first of all, find a deal, right? Find the right deal where the numbers work. If you find the deal where the numbers work, call up your friends, call up your relatives. Borrow 20 grand for that down payment amount on the hard money that you need. Give them 10% on that. That way you have no money in the game. Everybody they get a 10% interest rate loan. They get paid off, and in the end you have a pre-up or you flip. That's kind of like how I started. Apart from like other people, I pay back with interest. Everybody's happy. And once you establish yourself as somebody that is able to handle the business right, take credit, then you can go for larger loans, friends and family, and more. But everybody has to start somewhere.
thank you.
Great question. Does anyone have any other questions for Max? All right. Well, Max, just want to say thank you for hopping on and sharing some insights, sharing some gems, telling us a little bit about your story. Again, thank you again. I'm sure everyone else is grateful. If everyone can give another round of applause for Max, he didn't have to come on here. It doesn't happen every day.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. All the best. And keep doing what you're doing, brother. Keep leading from the front, brother.
You too, man. Take care, guys.
So that was freaking awesome. All right, that was awesome. Again, he's someone who didn't have to do that. And it's amazing because, all right, as I spoke about before, I think last week, success leaves clues. All right, so some of the words that he was saying is similar. Leveraging, all right. You want to scale up, using other people's money, and sometimes you got to pay. All right, sometimes you got to pay, but in order to do more, right? Like I think he said, what's better, 100% of nothing, or percentage of a lot, So, and this is someone who literally used those terms and those principles, and now the guy literally does whatever he wants on his own time. And he said something where he spoke a lot about the average person not, just having the money to put down on conventional financing for purchases. Luckily, everyone here is a realtor. All right, and if you're able to use these concepts that we learn in real estate contacts, being successful, using the database, leveraging the team, leveraging all these things, you guys are able to make money. And then with the money that you make, you will then be able to reinvest that money into these real estate ventures. So it goes hand in hand. So which is why I'm happy that we were able to go from last week's call and transition to this, right? Because if you're able to figure out the real estate game and build money up and build money up and build money up, now it's only a matter of getting the information and figuring out, okay, I got to find a certain deal and what to invest my money in. And then you just rinse, repeat. And then once you understand that, then it's you're locked in, you're focused, nothing's gonna deter you from your goals, and you're just gonna just work the system and focus on building your wealth. And Max he was very modest on today's call. This guy takes I don't know how many vacations. He's a legend, absolute legend. And you heard him in 1 to 2 years, he'll be up to 1,000 units. So yeah. Any questions from anyone? Any last thoughts? Any last bit of anything?
I just want to say thank you. Like, that was a really great opportunity.
No problem at all. No problem at all. I'm happy to have been able to put someone like that on the call for you guys. To hear something from someone else, a multimillionaire, and for you guys to see how the language, it's repetitive, and it's not like it's only coming from me, and when you hear what other people are doing, when it starts to sound similar, then, I think it kind of holds some more truth, more credibility, and you got to just able to, I guess, do what you want with the information. The same thing we said before hopping on this call. Right, because it doesn't matter. You guys can get the information, but if you don't do anything with it, right? What do you call it? Analysis paralysis. You analyze, but you don't do anything. So yeah. That's pretty much it for me, guys. Amazing call. Thank you guys for joining in. I encourage you guys to continue to get the right information, but not only that, just execute. Any last things from any of you guys?